Hello, my name is Sabrina Shelton, and this is my interpersonal communication project for HSCO 508 through Liberty University. You can advance to the next slide, where I provided you with an outline of the topics that I will be covering during this lecture, which will include my identification of my overarching goal, enlarging the conversation, my background in behavioral blend, communication skills, potential barriers and solutions to my communication, noise pollution, as well as action plans. You can advance to the next slide where I discuss my overarching goal, OAG, for my life. As you can see, I divided it up into three different categories: short-term, long-term, and my overarching goal for communication. First, I'll start with my short-term goal. I hope to complete my master's degree in human services counseling through Liberty University. My long-term personal goals are to obtain a career working as college student personnel, helping different students find their niche on their respective campuses, as well as starting up a young adult cancer survivor group in the Central Virginia region. My overarching goal for communication is to do better at self-disclosure, and if you look at the bubble on the PowerPoint on your screen, I defined self-disclosure as revealing yourself through thoughts and feelings, as well as sharing connecting with another person. You can advance to the next slide, where I talked about enlarging the conversation, which is understanding, listening, and speaking or responding from a perspective or view that is larger and different than my own. Expanding communication and deepening dialogue, getting out of my comfort zone and trying something new, and changing or adapting my way of thinking and feeling. You can advance to the next slide, where I provided you information about my background, as well as how my background has positively and negatively influenced my conversation. I'm a middle child out of three girls. I was raised and born in the church, brought up in the church all my life, and have been a born-again Christian since age 9 back in 1994. My parents divorced at a very young age for me, so young that I don't even remember what age that was. And then my mom remarried about 20 years ago, resulting in a relocation for myself and both of my sisters. I am single, never been married, no kids, and am a 3-time cancer survivor. I also obtained a Bachelor's of Science degree in psychology from Radcliffe University. I think that some positives of my background that helps my conversation is that I was brought up in a very nurturing environment, and I was taught to care for others as well as share my resources. Some negatives, though, pertaining to my background in regards to conversation is that since I was a middle child, I was seen as being the mediator, so I didn't often give my opinions or express myself very much because I was too busy helping my other two sisters figure out what was going on between them. And also, I felt like I was more extroverted and open prior to the relocation after my mom remarried. And I feel like I still haven't gotten back the extroversion that I used to have, um, which would be very helpful in my interpersonal communication skills now. Okay, you can advance to the next slide where I talked about behavioral blend, and behavioral blend refers to Carbonell's idea that people's personalities are based on a blend of the 4 specific behavior types, which he refers to as the DISC, D-I-S-C. D stands for active task oriented, I for active people oriented, S for passive people oriented, and C for passive task oriented. The graphics on your screen showing graph 1 and graph 2 shows who we are in front of others and who we are naturally or by ourselves or in the comforts of our own homes. My behavioral blend proved to be accurate and stable across the board and were an influence on my conversation. I would say positively, they've been helpful in my conversation because I am gentle, calm, considerate, thoughtful, compassionate, and polite. Negative attributes of my behavioral blend that could influence my conversation is that I do tend to be critical, not assertive, not very verbal. I can be too fault finding at times and can be not very direct at times also. You can advance to the next slide where I provided you with the outcome of the interpersonal communication skills test that I took at the beginning of the semester, which is another self-assessment to help me in my understanding of my interpersonal skills. As you can see, I scored a 92 out of 100, which means that I'm good at interpreting other people's words and actions, empathizing with others, and I'm able to sense what others are thinking and adjusting to whatever they're thinking accordingly. You can advance to your next slide, where I talked about some potential communication barriers of mine, starting with silence. Silence can be seen as good or bad, and it can have multiple interpretations, such as boredom, fear, sadness, or intimacy. And it's also compulsive need to fill the void or empty space for me whenever there is silence when I'm communicating with others. Some possible solutions would be for me to respect the meaningfulness of silence, as stated in Stewart's book, Bridges Not Walls, and to not assume that the person I'm with is uncomfortable with the silence. And if come to find out he or she indicates a misunderstanding of the silence, I can address and then correct it. You can advance to your next slide, where I list another communication barrier of mine, which is self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is about opening up to others and being able to have others understand who I am and what I am feeling. The possible solutions would be to utilize Peterson's talker listener card, where it helps to have someone like me who's usually always wanting to be the listener take turns in a conversation and actually give me some prompts to help me be actively engaged in the conversation instead of just listening and being agreeable all the time. And it helps others that I'm in communication with to understand more about me and for me to accurately understand more about them. Also, I will make a conscious effort to match the level of self-disclosure offered by whomever I'm communicating with as another possible solution for my communication barrier of self-disclosure. You can advance to the next slide, where I covered noise pollution, where it's not always actual physical noise, but can be anything that keeps us from paying attention to the person that's speaking to us. I have listed for you on the screen some internal pollutants, such as mind wandering and or daydreaming, and a possible solution for it, which would be creating a mental picture or imagery about what is being said in the conversation instead of thinking about something that I want to do or something that triggered another memory for me. I can create an image of what they're talking about to help me understand better and pay more attention. Another internal noise pollutant could be preparing a response while listening to the other person speak. A possible solution to this could be listening to the speaker with the intent of paraphrasing and repeating back what is said to the speaker. External pollutants could be passing cars or people. A possible solution is if constant eye contact is too uncomfortable, I can pick somewhere on the speaker's face to look at or concentrate on while they are speaking, only as long as I'm not looking at that spot to zone out or to not pay attention to what they're talking to. That would be the only way that would be possible for me in helping to pass this external noise pollutant. Also, another external pollutant could be cell phones. A possible solution is if it's too tempting to just flip it over face down on the table where me and the speaker are talking, and if I feel too tempted to reach into my pocket whenever there's a discussion topic that I'm not very interested in, I can simply turn the phone off and keep it out of sight. You can advance to the next slide, where I provided you with the actions that I'm going to take in order to make my personal goals, my personal communication goals, a reality. I will make a conscious effort to start out practicing with close friends and family by embracing the silence, self-disclosing, and utilizing Peterson's talker listener card. The final two slides are the bibliography of the resources that I used for this interpersonal communication project. And with that, that concludes my presentation and my lecture on my interpersonal communication skills. Thank you for your attention.